Okay, thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to run through our P6-Reporter. I'm Nicole Jardin, the founder and CEO of Emerald, and I'm joining you actually from Montreal today. And with me doing the heavy lifting is Marilyn Backstrom. She's in Edmonton and she's an implementation specialist at Emerald with tremendous experience, and she'll touch on some of that as she runs through the session. With us as well is James Andrade. He's one of our lead programmers who does a lot of work with the reporting tool. So between the three of us, hopefully we can show you a few things that could be interesting for your team. So let's touch on why we even built P6-Reporter. What are some of the common struggles? So, as a P6 user, with probably with an enterprise group using the tool, one of the biggest challenges is getting good access to that data. Now that data is complicated. In the back end, there's hundreds of tables that bring all that data together. As a user, it looks like maybe it's simple, but it's quite complicated in the back. So what you want to do is you want to get that data into the hands of the right people, okay? So not everyone that needs to see the schedule, see where the resources are, understand the costs to date, not all those people are going to be users of P6. So getting that data to the extended team is the key thing we're trying to do. Ultimately, we're trying to get people to the right place at the right time, and without good access to the data, it doesn't quite fill all the needs of the team. So we want to get that P6 data from the schedule out so everyone can access it and access it accurately. So this is the thing that we see some of our clients do. They grab data out into Excel, they export, they copy and paste. All of those things can work, but they're also very prone to error. If you copy and paste with a filter on, you might not have all the data. If you export, you might not have all the data. And you have to do it. That's the other thing. You have to remember to do it. And that can be a pinch point. So accuracy of the data is important. If you have a team who's trying to get the back-end data from the tables, the database itself, same thing. We had a client who worked on that for months and they couldn't get the data right because some of the data is not in the tables. So this is the tricky thing. Again, as a user, you say, well, it's just here, it's right here. But on the back end, it's not actually stored data. So this is important. And ultimately, efficiency is key. If you have 10, 20, 30, hundreds of projects to report on every few weeks or every day, even every month, you don't want to have to be manually getting the data out and dealing with exports and then pushing them into other systems. Okay, so you want that efficiency. So we're doing all this because we want the schedule information to be available quickly in a timely manner for business decisions. And sometimes you really don't want necessarily the schedulers in the middle having to produce those reports, because you want the stakeholders to have what they need to make those business decisions, whether you're working at the moment or not. Okay, so that could be in an airport, on an airplane, that they're trying to look at things, make decisions. It could be in a meeting. You want to make that seamless and simple for them to gain access to the data. Okay, so this is why we built this tool. This tool lets you get that P6 data out in a clean, efficient, controlled manner, not ad hoc, not full of error, potential error-prone methodology. Okay, so that's really why we built it. And the benefits of self-serve data and dashboards that's controlled. So that's another thing we see people do. They go after live P6 data. if you reschedule, if you add a new activity and you change the logic, you put the wrong logic ties, or you change a duration by mistake, the whole schedule can change. Okay, so it's dangerous to report on live P6 data. So we want it also to be controlled. Okay, so that's really the benefit of using P6-Reporter. So let me explain how it works, and then I'll let Marilyn actually show it to you and show you a variety of different things. And when it's a reporting type webinar like this, you got to remember this is food for thought. Okay, what she's going to show you is not the only thing that you can do. These are just different things that we've done with clients or that we thought could be valuable. So it's just ideas as to where you could go with it. So P6-Reporter really has two pieces to it. Well, maybe three. Let's talk about that. So first and foremost, we have the ability to do snapshots. So that's the part that you can see and control from P6. Okay. So we have clients who do snapshots daily if you're doing a turnaround, or every shift, it's possible as well, or weekly, or every 2 weeks, or every month. Okay, so we have a variety of standard ways that our clients take snapshots. They decide what data they want to push into those snapshots. So they're comprehensive. They take all the data at the corporate level, so enterprise, the EPS, the OBS, the WBSs, the codes. So it takes all the data that you want. Okay, so we have choices. You don't have to take things that you don't use or that you don't think you're going to report on, but it's comprehensive. And the key thing is it also includes things like the spreads. When we talk about spreads, those are time-based distributed data. So anything on the resource level where we've got histograms that you can create, those are called spreads. Okay, so it's comprehensive. You're not limited to the data that you grab. And then you can have multiple snapshots. It's similar to doing a baseline, but it's not storing the data inside the P6 database. It's pushing it out to our data warehouse. And that way the snapshots are easier to report on, because when we push it out, we have the data in an easier to use format. Okay, so this allows us to do comparisons. So in P6, you typically can use 2 baselines with your current schedule. With snapshotting, we can use as many snapshots as we want to mix and match and compare. Okay, so it's much more flexible. So you can do impact analysis, and you can compare and overlay different windows. Okay, so I could look at what was my last update, what was my update at the same time as of the year, last year, for example. What was my update 3 months ago? So you can do a lot of comparisons with this snapshotting concept. And then, as I mentioned, those snapshots are taken out into our data warehouse. It's denormalized, and all that means is it's made simpler. Okay, so instead of hundreds of tables to work with, we have a lot less. So we've consolidated that, which makes it easier to learn, faster to report on than working with the out-of-the-box P6 database pushes, the publishing, okay? Because that's just publishing the data out. It doesn't do anything to try and make it easier to work with. And then, as I mentioned, we've got the spread generation, okay? So that's that time-based data of resources and costs that are sitting on expenses. So in terms of our components, we've got all the components. So we've got portfolio level information, task level information, spreads, as I've mentioned, and then things that you might want to use for schedule comparisons like calendars and logic. Now, from the warehouse, we have other pieces that are part of the reporter. So we have views. So that's just a way of pulling that data out into the ability to push that into a reporting system. So we don't care really which reporting system you're already using in your company. If you're using Power BI, this will work with it. If you're using Tableau, this will work with it. Okay, so we don't care what end point you push it into. We're doing the middle work. Okay, we're getting it out of P6, making it easier to use with the views, and then you can push that into whatever tool you want. Now, of course, we can't preempt all the data you're going to have because you probably have codes, you probably have UDFs. So we work with you to add those pieces to the data components in the views, and then off you go and push it into other systems. Now, if you need help with that, we also have that expertise, okay? But if you've already got it in your team, we can coach you and get you going very quickly. Okay, so what it gives you the ability to have a strong reporting database that's secure. Okay, it's not going to be subjected to a scheduler making a mistake in the durations, the logic, deleting activities by mistake. All of that is gone because we're reporting off the snapshots. Okay, it lets you compare to, and then it allows you to develop the KPIs off of a strong foundation, and it's repeatable. That's the big thing, okay? We're not having to do different work for different kinds of projects. It's very repeatable once we've got the settings in place. Okay, so I think I've done enough to give you kind of an overview. What I'll do now is let Marilyn take over, the star of the show. She's going to show you the tool in action. Here it comes, Marilyn.
Okay, thanks. I'll just get my screen share going here and we'll get going. Okay, first of all, and sorry, I'll just make this a little longer. He got a little bit shorted there. So first of all, when Nicole was speaking with you about taking snapshots, you can automate taking the snapshots. So you can set it up so that the software will take your snapshot, for example, midnight every night, if that's what you require, or 7 a.m. Monday to Friday, or the scenarios go on, but you can automate it. So that's looked after for you. So I'm sure that some of you have done comparison reports, things like that, where you're grabbing the information at a certain point. You don't even have to remember to do that here. It can be automated. But what if I need to take a snapshot outside the automation parameters, for example? I can do that as well. And I just wanted to show you how easy that really is. So I've got a file here, and if I go into the file, I'm going in here and I'm going to make some changes. So I'm not going to make a lot of them because I want to show you how the snapshot works. I don't want to waste your time you watching me do a bunch of updates. But let's go in, and I'm going in to do some updates. So I'm going into this particular activity, and I found out that it's going to be a month longer than what was anticipated. Now, this rolls up into a section, which I'll show you a little bit later, but I'm going to set this a month out. And at that point, what I need to do, of course, is reschedule it so that we can see what it actually changes. Well, if I've got all my updates in at that point and I want to take a snapshot, exactly what do I have to do? Well, this file has the snapshot parameters set up already. So basically all I have to do is I need to tell it what snapshot period am I taking, And I can do that just in here. It's just telling it. So it has an identification basically of what is it actually taking the snapshot of. So we want the December 15th snapshot. Whoops, sorry, I did not grab that hard enough, clearly. So I just need to go down here. There we go. Now, the other thing that I will do here, I've got snapshot run message. You'll see it says snapshot OK. Well, I'm going to just take that out. You don't necessarily have to do that. It will run with it in there, but that way, if there is any kind of issue, it will give you a message. If there isn't, you'll see that same message I just removed. The only other thing I need to do is go in and just say go, so that it will go out and create the snapshot. Now, it does take a couple minutes to do it. And of course, depending on the system it's running on, the size of the file, that kind of thing. But that is really all you have to do to tell the software to create the snapshot. Now, that snapshot, as soon as it's finished, becomes information available in whatever reports you want it connected to. So it will automatically be coming across as new information for your reports. Now, even if you have to wait a minute or two for a snapshot to be completed, I've done a lot of these reports before there was available all the Power BI tools and things like that, and still in situations where the Power BI tools are available, but not everybody has them yet or is running them yet. And you do comparison reports, but there is a lot of work involved. You're managing copies of files. You're managing who's got access to the copies, who's got access to the baselines, because if somebody is not clear on which files they need to hands off, again, that's another way you can sometimes end up with things changing. And that definitely is not fun. So this makes it very easy. And as you create your snapshots, and our snapshot is finished, as you create your snapshots, if I create another snapshot tomorrow, this snapshot I just created does not go away unless I choose to delete it and actually go in and tell the software to delete it. So now I've made a small change in my file, but I've created the snapshot. Very easy to do. Now let's go and see in, this is Power BI. I'll start there. We do have some reports in Tableau as well to show you. But in this case, this is the file that I had on screen. Now I've already got an October snapshot, and you can see if you hover over these bars, it will give you a little bit more information about each piece. Now here's my November. And the one I want you to just be aware of here, surface land, the pipeline, that was a group we were looking at. So if I hover over that, my finish date right now is 4th of October, 2022. Let's change to our new snapshot and just see what information that gives us. There we go. Just a little slow refreshing on my machine is all. I'll see whether I can give that to. That's interesting. I'm going to just hit refresh on this. I believe this is likely a refresh issue. I did have these kind of parked in, yeah, I had them parked and sitting there, and they may have just been sitting there for just a little bit too long. So here's my December one that I just built. Just took the snapshot of. And if I hover over this same surface land pipeline section, you'll see my finish date now is the 2nd of December with that last update I put in. So it is pulling in the changes that you're making and recreating this particular layout for the report for each of the snapshots. Now, of course, as you saw in the little demo file, this surface land one I used as an example, the pipeline part is not just one activity. That's a group of activities. And in some of these reports, keep in mind that some of the groups are fairly sizable. They can be a roll-up of a large number of activities. So you've got the ability to keep taking your snapshots. And if you wanted, after a period of time, for example, maybe you've gone a year on a schedule, you might want to compare 1 month in to 10 months in, that kind of thing. And you can do it side by side here. I should say one on top of the other. Now, I'm just going to go up to the top here and go down the list basically. So we have dashboards. Now, you can create dashboards, and please keep in mind that these are drilling files. So the coding structure, exactly what you're tracking in here, is probably not what you're going to be looking for unless you are dealing with drilling projects. But keep in mind that you can, of course, group by whatever coding structure you have in there. You can compare milestones based on what are your milestones that you're tracking because of the projects that you're dealing with. So we've got a management dashboard here, and we've got upcoming. So you've got a list of upcoming projects. I've got budget hour status by team and project. Now, this is by team and project because these drilling files that we've got in this demo material have teams built into them. You may use teams. If you do, that's fine. It can be grouped similarly. But if you don't use the teams, you can still group by the project and maybe subcontractors, things like that, depending on what your data has that you need to pull out and keep track of. Now I've got late and early. So late, on time, early, you can see by the number of projects in this portfolio. So this is management level. This is a number of projects. We will look at some dashboards reports that are just based on a single project at a time, but this is the portfolio. Budget status, so you can see at a glance, do you have projects that you need to, of course, have a closer look at because they're over budget, they're late, that kind of scenario. Over allocated resources, total hours, this is by quarter. And below that, I have milestones. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So below that, I've got milestones. Now, ready to license, ready to permit, final tie-in. Of course, again, if you're not using, if the projects you deal with are not drilling, you might have major milestones, minor milestones, unit milestones, things like that as well, depending on the type of projects you're dealing with. Now, anywhere on the graph, of course, you can hover and you can see additional information there. But you can see where am I at with my ready to license milestones, my ready to permit, and my final tie-in complete. So I've got another dashboard built for wells. And this one, similarly, it's giving you well level information. So over allocated hours, I've got, here's drilling crew, the resource profile, and surface land start milestones, and ready to license. And here's a Gantt chart as well. So you do have the activities on the Gantt chart by project. Now I've got roads. This one, over allocated hours, you've got the Gantt chart, which is telling you drilling, pads and roads, reviews and approvals, and again, milestone elements. So you can track where are the milestones. In this case, I've got pad and roads, I've ready to license, I've got surface land start and ready for production. Now I've got one more management level one here, which is pipeline. And it's got the resource profile for the pipeline crew, of course, at the top. I've got activities, and I can just scroll over. You can see the activities and as well scroll down. And then again, milestones, but a different type of milestones that I want on that particular one. And that's pipeline, ready to permit pipeline, the surface land, and final tie-in complete. So you can track all different types of information grouped in the fashion that you need so that people have the information that they require at their fingertips. Now, if you needed to pull all this information out of P6, and even if you were going to create a report for each one of these portlets, it's a lot of work. This way, you take the snapshot, it goes into as feed data for this particular dashboard, updates to the current, and you're done. You don't have to worry about having made a mistake, as Nicole indicated, on a filter or something like that, and your information is sideways. Now, I have portfolio here. This particular one is really an interesting one to be aware of. And this again is food for thought. So you may want it configured slightly differently, but it should give you some good food for thought on what you could do with your own projects. Because this particular portfolio one, I can move that away just temporarily so we have a little bit more space here. Now we've got, you'll see a number of filters across the top. This report date is our snapshot date. So I'll leave that on November, but you can change that and it will change any of the information that needs updated from the new snapshot that you choose. Now, depending on your coding, these are all filters based on different codes that are in these drilling projects. So you may not have exactly the same thing. For example, teams, you may not have teams, you may have something else available, but you can create different filters so you can drill down. Now I've got upcoming projects, I've got overallocated resources on the far left side. Now this middle section has a lot of very valuable information available in it. So I've got project, percent complete, total cost percent over, under, duration percent over, days early or late, labor hours over, labor hours under. So pretty valuable information about your project. Now there's color coding on here, you'll notice, and I'm just going to see if I can pull this up a little bit here. When you're looking at the color coding, it makes it very easy when you're just glancing at this middle section to focus on the pieces that you need to really keep a close eye on. One is I have a facility 2B here, just towards the top. This is one of the files that I know there's been an ongoing issue with. They do have some problems with this file. So I'm looking here and I've got negative 395. Well, they're over on their hours. Well, of course, that orange color draws my eye to it right away. And I know there's something I need to look into. Now, if you're looking to look at this particular dashboard and you're thinking, okay, I don't want to have to scroll all the way down and see what's going on necessarily on everything down here. I want to group it a little easier for me to look at what I wanted to look at right now. So maybe I'm looking for anything that is over in labor hours. All I have to do is click on the column header and you'll notice what it brought to the top here. So I am organizing it by labor hours. Now I might want percent complete. I can do that as well. Any of these columns, you can just click on the header and it will resort it for you that way. So that makes it even easier to focus on the specific pieces of information you're looking for. Now we have late and early, so it's tracking how many projects late and early, like we saw before. Budget, projects by project manager. So in this case, how many projects is each project manager looking after? And we also have labor hours by drilling team. just below here. Again, just keep in mind, just because your project doesn't perhaps have drilling teams in it because it's not a drilling project, you can definitely create whatever grouping, whatever information you need to focus on. Budget hour status by team and project. So I can see on budget, over budget, under budget by the team and the number of projects. So it's very, very concise, very good information, easy to get at, easy to digest. Now, what happens if I wanted to look a little closer at one of the files or a number of them? Now, I did say that I'm interested in this facility 2B. I know this one had some problems. If I want to click on facility 2B, you'll notice what this particular dashboard does. It shows you, this is where that one shows up in the late and early. It is over labor hours also. So you'll be able to see, of course, this is where it sits in the budget. Now you'll see it is with the central group. It is the one at the bottom here. So it does show you where does the one that you have selected fit in the list basically. Now, if I wanted to look at a drill down a little different than that, one of the things I can do, I did show you the teams. Let's just look at what is in the central team, for example. So I'll just click on central and you'll notice what it does. Now I'm only looking at the projects that are being handled by the central team, and same type of information, but now it's just on that group. So you've got a very, very easy access to some very good information for your particular portfolio. Now, what if I want to drill it down a little farther? We want to make sure, of course, we know what's going on with the whole portfolio. What about specific projects? So we've got project detail reports here as well, dashboards. So if I look at the overview, and you'll see as we go through here, this is one format of the overview project detail. As Nicole mentioned, this is not cast in stone. It's not your only option. You can customize according to your coding structure, according to what you need. So just to give you some food for thought as to what the possibilities are. So here's our facility 2B. We've got access to all the projects in our portfolio. We can change our snapshot date. Now, our facility 2B, when we look at this particular case here, 40% complete as of the 15th of November, gives you the statistics along the side here. You've got costs, labor hours, days, and duration. Now, at the right side, you'll see this particular table looks fairly familiar. We've got the color coding again. And we've got color coding that very easily tells us where we need to focus our attention. So it's drilled down a level from the portfolio. This is projects and activities instead of the portfolio and specific projects, but you've got all the detailed information here. And again, you can go and resort this depending on what you're looking to focus on. Now, when you're looking at the project, of course, one of the big elements that I'm usually doing some analysis of is critical path. So critical path here, this is still the facility 2B. Again, you can just click and change it to another project, but you've got criticality levels in the top left corner here. So I can say I want to show all of them, or I could deselect that and say I only want to show critical information. The whole dashboard changes to give you exactly what you've asked for. I'll go back to select all for a second here because I just want to show you some of the different information you've got at your fingertips here. So I've got criticality level, percentages, And this is for facility 2B, that project. So these are percentages of the activities. I've got completed 7, critical 8, and non-critical 13. So it's not a big demo file, but you can see what it'll do for you. Whether it's 13 files not activities not critical, or 13,000, it'll still summarize the information for you. I've got WBS activity ID, name, start, float, and criticality level. So I can scroll and see what's going on with the criticality level here. I could also, again, just click on the column header and it's going to put everything together if you find it easier to look at it that way. You've got that available to you as well. And in the Gantt chart below here, you've got the activities and you can see completed, critical, not critical. Now you'll notice you've got a couple of activities here that the color goes a bit lighter after a certain point. There's another one down here. That's because right now that's where the data date is sitting. Now we've got a resource allocation dashboard as well. This one I find really very useful. Not that any of the rest of them aren't, but this one I've used this kind of information quite often. So again, report date, I could change it to whatever report or snapshot date I need. I've got over allocated hours. In this case, I've got the pipeline crew showing. Now I could go and choose any resource. Any resource that is available in this list, I can just click on it. For now, I'll leave it on the pipeline crew just to show you some of the other pieces of information that you can very easily get out of this particular dashboard. Now, on the bottom piece here, I've got projects, the projects that require the pipeline crew. So this is a list of projects. These are the activities from the different projects that this particular resource is involved in. Now, if I go in, and you might look at this and think, okay, it gives me the resource profile. Nice, but what else does it do? There is something else I want you to be aware of, because this is handy to know about. If I go down and click on facility 2B, you'll notice it shows me where this project file is sitting in the time scale when it requires the pipeline crew. So one of the things I find handy is if I know the priorities on these projects, and I want to go in and see, okay, how far down the priority list can we get and still be within our resource profile? You can simply do things like this. You'll notice as soon as I click on another element, it's showing me exactly where that resource requirement is falling into that profile. And once you've used that and you want to go back to the original, just click. You might have to click twice depending on how many you've chosen. It'll bring you back to that particular profile. So you can see exactly what projects and at what point are you headed into this overload. You may have some projects sitting in that area that their priority is low enough that maybe they can move. You may be able to bring in more resources as well. That might be an option. Now, milestone trending. This is something we all end up having to do. In this case, we've got, again, a number of filters across the top. Now, report date, you can change it to another snapshot, but I've got ready to permit. These milestones in these demo projects and in most projects have tags on them. You'll usually have, even if it's not ready to permit, you'll have major milestones, minor milestones, unit milestones, things like that, and there'll be tags. So you can pick the group of milestones you want to display. Now, in this case, I've got a list as well, project, the milestone date, and the status of it, but you can hover and you can get the high-level details as well. Now, we have another one that is side by side. This one is interesting because you can do as this one is displaying. This is going from October to November. Final tie-in complete. Now you can see between October and November the difference in the milestone profile, and you can go through it in detail and compare where you were last month to where you are this month. So maybe it's not drilling milestones that you're looking to compare, but maybe what you're looking for is milestones that cover off when elements go into inspection. You can do that as well. You can do just about anything with, depending on what's in your project file. Now, I've got one that is a Gantt chart. This is activities by resource. So it's showing you drilling, facilities, pads and roads and pipelines. So what type of activity is it? And I can take them all away. And then I could say, okay, I want to show the pipeline crew and maybe I want the drilling crew, that kind of thing. And you see that the Gantt chart changes and the list it's showing you changes as you select. So there's a number of different ways you can use that type of display. So there is some other reports, and sorry, I better watch the time. My apologies, I tend to talk too much. So this particular piece that I would like to show you now, these reports are in Tableau. So there is some similar ones to what we've looked at. Portfolio summary. Again, it's not in Power BI, it's in Tableau, but it has very similar information. We've got the combined portfolio upcoming, same display in the middle section here, very similar to what we had in the Power BI portfolio summary. You'll notice this one has different indicators. If I hover over any of these bars, they have the color coding, but they also have, you'll see there's a mark at the end here. Well, that is showing you the current is 78 and change. It's gone up by 18 million. So you've got a lot of information here, and it's giving you little indicators, whether it's gone up since the last update or whether it's gone down. So you've got very, very, very good indicators that will show you really quickly, okay, if I've got something that's in the cost side or in how many days it's going to take and it keeps going up, I need to investigate. So it makes it very, very visual for you. Projects by status, by PM, very similar information to what we had in Power BI, but you can do it as well, this type of dashboard in Tableau. Now we've got project details as well. I won't spend a lot of time on these. I realize the time is of the essence a little bit here. So if I look at project detail, this will give you an idea of some of the other displays that you can have running for your projects in Tableau. Now, this type of report here is giving you resource allocation. This is an interesting one because it is actually giving you the resource, but then it's showing you that this project is 16% of the limit in this case for the one I'm pointing at for July 2022. So you can look at a lot of different aspects to the information depending on how you want to configure the display. Now, resource allocation, this one is very similar to what we looked at in Tableau. Milestone trending, same idea. Now, this is one we didn't have in Tableau, valve green-ups. Now, I've worked a lot of turnaround schedules these reports, even though they seem like you look at them on the screen, if you have never been involved in turnarounds, they can look very simple and kind of give the impression of, okay, and as if what's behind it. But just keep in mind that each one of these, for example, relief valve summary, each one of these services that it's rolling up and giving you a percentage to the stage that that servicing is in can be a few thousand activities. Not always, sometimes it's a few hundred, but this is the summation of a very large number of activities. And I've got control valve summary. Again, it's tracking where are you at by stages, rolling up a lot of information. You've got the service and then what control valve stage are you at? Now, if you see any places where you've got 100% and things in front aren't status, it might be something you want to have a look at too. Did somebody forget to status something? Or maybe some of these steps actually are in your schedule and are not needed. Exchanger and piping green ups, same idea. You've got a lot of information underneath these elements in the schedule that's being statused. The dashboard is rolling this up for you, this particular report. Now, again, if you take a new snapshot, it just summarizes it for you very seamlessly there, gives you the information at your fingertips. Now, inspection green ups. This is one I have honestly worked a number of projects where this report basically ends up being a very large piece of plotter paper on the wall. And I've worked a number of projects where people even came into the boardroom ahead of the morning meeting by 20 minutes to half an hour so they could status update their piece on the wall. In other cases, they were being summarized in the schedule, but again, you've got to make sure that you've got everything rolling up by the proper code each time, all that kind of good stuff. In this case, you take the snapshot, the current status of it is there for you. Now, there's exchanger and piping green ups, that type of scenario as well, but very handy, very easy to allow tracking of elements in your project. And these titles, the groups can be whatever you need in your project. And racetrack, this is a racetrack by discipline. So you can create racetrack reports, racetrack displays. And again, here, this one is grouped by system, function, and it's telling you what disciplines are working in what time frames within these particular systems and functions. Now there's another one, racetrack by function. So here's the system, the discipline, and it's tracking, the color coding is tracking engineering, procurement, fabrication, and on down the line over your time period. So some food for thought as to what might be useful on your projects. Now, just before I hand it over to Nicole, there is one other one that I wanted to show you in Power BI. I should have looked at it while we were there. Now, this particular report is, this one was produced from P6QA. P6QA is a tool that Emerald has built, and it runs quality checks on your schedule as you progress through, whether you're in development or whether you're in execution. I've had this conversation with a lot of people over time. A few people have asked me, why do you need schedule QA during execution? There's a number of reasons. You do need it because you're updating activities, you're making changes as execution progresses. All of these particular elements, you can be bringing in subcontractor schedules, things like that. You still need to know if there is some fundamental issues in your schedule. So you can run P6QA, and what this has done is showing you a summary. logic missing, I've got 55 activities that are missing logic. I've got 11 with warnings and on down the line. So you can see at a glance what's going on here. So on that note, I will pass it back over to Nicole. I hope this has given you some food for thought.
Okay. Thanks, Marilyn. I'll take back the control. I don't see any questions yet, so if you do have any, put them into the question room and we will answer them. Otherwise, I'll just wrap up. Oops. Okay, so we took a look. Mary Lynn showed us how you do a snapshot. It's very easy to run a snapshot. Now we have clients who snapshot in a uniform manner. So some of them have them automated, as she mentioned. So for example, we have clients who do their updates every Friday. So the snapshot runs Friday night automatically. So those are things you can also do, and then you can do them ad hoc. You also have the ability to have a snapshot run in the evening every single night. If you're doing integrations, for example, that's where you'd want to keep the data synced up based on the integration. From the snapshots, that's where you can do all that fantastic reporting out into your corporate system. So some of the benefits that our clients have given us as feedback, okay? Efficiency, streamlining the reporting, that's a big thing. That's why we built it, so we wouldn't have to ourselves, because when we're supporting clients, deal with getting the reports out, okay? So we thought there's got to be a better way, and this is why we started this tool. And of course, making the ability to create the charts much quicker, okay? That's a huge thing. We want people to have self-serve data, controlled data, organized data at their fingertips. So the accessibility is really what that brings, okay? So the user interface is simple for a P6 user to create the snapshots, and then getting the data out into whatever your corporate standard is makes it more intuitive for the user. They're already used to using it for other things that they do during their workday. And you saw how easy it was to add filters and different pick lists and things like that. In this case, Power BI and Tableau, but all those reporting tools are very similar. So you don't need someone to be a P6 expert to be able to understand the data that you're giving them out in this more simple to use format, okay? So it gets the issues in their hands quicker, like in those green ups, okay? So one of the things Marilyn was showing you is if you have green, red, and then green, you know, why is the red in the middle? That doesn't make sense. So it lets you know right away, is there an update missing? Or did I update later tasks without the earlier tasks finished? Like, what is going on here? Okay, so that's really important for you to be able to pinpoint problems, okay? And it's not always a P6 person who's going to see all the problems. So this is very, very quick, user-friendly displays, simple for them to use. That's huge. The inspection one that she was mentioning, okay? An inspection coordinator during a turnaround, they have to be very, very flexible and get the inspection to that particular station, that particular piece of equipment as fast as they can. So that flexibility comes through in the way the data shows up. So using the snapshots, okay, lets you compare so many real-time items, okay? And then you don't have to start doing all this work in Excel with a bunch of different comparisons. So this is a big thing. Now that gives you the earned value capability to see earned value much, much more clearly in a way that your users can consume that data. okay, because we've got the resources and the expenses, and that just makes it much more user-friendly. Okay, so we've used this tool with many clients, from owners groups to engineering firms to construction companies. So we've kind of crossed the gamut of types of users. What they look for are not always the same. You know, contractors usually have more detail and owners have a little less detail, but the benefit is the same, okay, is the ability to have that data accessible to the right people. So that's really where the benefit comes in. And more companies want dashboards. It is a big thing. It's really become a very hot requirement in the last few years. So this is where the tool can be positioned. It'll save you a lot of time, save you a lot of frustration, increase your accuracy, make it repeatable, so you can have corporate standards. That's really the benefit. Okay, good. So I don't see any questions. So hopefully, you know, you've seen some interesting ideas, things that you think you can capitalize on with your organization. And you can let us know if there's some help that we can bring. So not only do we have the tool that does all this for you, we can also help you with our team to build the reports if need be, okay? Or we can work with your team to do that. Now, this is one of many tools that we have. So hopefully you've been on our website, you've taken a look at a variety of tools, and we've been developing integrations since our inception. So we've been in a company for 28 years. We're in our 29th year now, and we've always had programmers on the team. That's why we have so many tools to offer to help you use P6 and Unifier Safran better. And of course, this is just one of many tools. So take a look at our tools, because we've got updating tools, we've got loading tools to load data in and out via Excel, we've got auditing, we've got the QA tools, we've got a lot of tools to help make your P6 usage better. If you do want more information, or you want to understand how this or any of our other tools could work with your team, within your team, make your P6 usage better, make your project delivery better, I've got Mary Lynn's number there, and Donna's info too. If you're in the Philippines or the APAC region, you can reach out to Donna. Her info's there as well. Alrighty, I think we've covered everything.